Welcome, collectors and hobby enthusiasts, to this episode of Diecast Emporium Military Mondays. This week, we're going to be checking out the most influential armored personnel carrier in history, the M113. The M113 is a fully tracked armored personnel carrier currently manufactured by BAE Systems. As you may expect, this vehicle first saw combat and earned its stripes by the U.S. Army in Vietnam during April 1962. It earned the nickname Green Dragon by the Viet Cong because the Army often used the M113 to assault enemy positions and break through the dense Vietnamese jungle. The M113 introduced new aluminum armor that made the vehicle much lighter than its predecessors, but thick enough to protect against small arms fire, but crucially, light enough to be air transportable. Today, the U.S. Army's M113s have largely been replaced by the M2 and M3 Bradleys, but large numbers of M113s still remain in the motor pool as support vehicles, such as a mortar carrier, command vehicle, armored ambulance, and more. Today, the Army's heavy brigade combat teams are equipped with around 6,000 M113s. Now, not everybody, unfortunately, loves the old M113s. It's one of the more controversial vehicles that are still in the inventory. One of the main reasons for its downfall and why it's not so loved by everybody is that same revolutionary armor that it had back in the 60s doesn't really hold up in today's kind of environments that we're seeing in Iraq and Afghanistan, because it's extremely susceptible to roadside bombs, IEDs, and landmines that you see in urban warfare environments. Because of this, most of the active duty M113s that you would see in urban environments with Bradleys and Abrams and such have largely been replaced by the wheeled MRAP family of vehicles. But the U.S. Army has undertaken a program called the Armored Multi-Purpose Vehicle, or AMPV program, which is under development to find a permanent and suitable replacement for the M113 family of vehicles. Finally, the M113 weighs 12.3 tons and can carry up to 15 combat-ready troops, and it can travel up to 42 miles per hour on land. Let's transition to the model that you see in front of you. Technically, this version of the M113, as I said, there are many different variations of the M113, and this has been exported to over 60 countries throughout the world. Technically, this version is a German version, the M113 MTW, which the MTW is their version of the basic transport version, the Mannschaft Transport Wagon, so we're just going to call it the MTW to save ourselves a whole lot of trouble. I got this from my friends at smallscalehobbies.com. Once again, this is the business card that you've seen many times before. They do own a brick-and-mortar store, so if you're in the Manitowoc, Wisconsin area, drop in, pay them a visit, tell them I sent you. They carry kits like Diecast, as well as Herpa, Rocco, mini tanks, Westby, Trident, and many, many more. They do specialize in military models from a variety of different conflicts throughout the last 100 years. Also, their website, smallscalehobbies.com. Check them out. Their entire inventory is also online. With that out of the way, let's start with the box. As I said before, this is an Diecast model. There's a version of the fully assembled M113, as I said. Technically, this is the German version. I did not make this up as a German version. This is a US version that I assembled. M113 MTW, Kit 187 scale. SKU number, or model number, is 8775.195. Side of the box has very much the same information. Nothing on the top, nothing on the side, and on the back, just a recycled logo. All right, let's focus in on the actual model. So this is a resin 187 scale kit. It does not come assembled, which means you have to cut everything from the spruce, sand everything, assemble everything, then paint and detail your kit. The instructions that are included are pretty straightforward, but I would say definitely anytime you're dealing with these resin kits with limited instructions that are included, this is definitely something for the advanced or at least the very experienced collector. It goes together, like I said, pretty well. It does also help to have some reference photos of the real M113 that you're trying to replicate, which, as I said, there are numerous versions. So if you wanted to make this into a mortar carrier, for example, you could do that. If you wanted to make this into a tracked ambulance, you could also do that. The version that I kind of wanted to go for was just an infantry support vehicle that you would see with the Bradleys and with the Abrams in the regimented combat teams within the U.S. Army. So let's take a much closer look. I actually did make this model pretty functional considering it is so small compared to other things. It does have, for its main armament, a machine gun up on top. It also has a couple extra or spare road wheels should those get knocked out and need to be replaced. The back portion is where the troops would enter, so that would drop down on the real one. Also up on top, the main portion does open, and you can see kind of inside. That goes down. Also, this hatch right here, which I believe is where the commander of the vehicle would sit. It is a little bit difficult to open because the tolerances are tight. There you go. That opens as well. Or, I also made it that you can take it off completely if you just want to leave it open, which is what we'll do now. As for some of the small details that are on it, you have a couple equipment pouches here. I already mentioned the road wheels, ammo up here, some fuel or water cans, another pouch here that I painted in tan to match the vehicle, and on the back there's also a tow hitch. These skirts you can leave off of the M113 depending on what era you're modeling in, because the old M113s did not have this skirt. This is a newer add-on piece to protect the bogey wheels on the tracks from RPGs and such. They would add those on when they get into the theater of battle. So again, because I'm modeling a modern version of the M113, I did want to add those. Underneath, again, not much to write home about. I didn't bother to detail that out other than coloring the tracks black. As for what this vehicle really means in terms of the history of the U.S. Army, the military channel actually named this, they did a top 10 program of, I believe it was infantry vehicles of all time. They named this as the most influential and important military infantry vehicle of all time, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So that kind of gives you an indication of the significance and importance of the M113. Overall, I presented both sides of the argument. It was great in Vietnam. It still had its issues even back then, but today it's really just outdated. It is time to find a replacement for it. And unfortunately, with the M2 and M3 series of Bradley infantry fighting vehicles, there definitely is a better alternative, but perhaps with the program that we talked about earlier that the Army is looking into, with the, I think it's the AMPV program, the Armored Multi-Purpose Vehicle Program, maybe we'll have a newer version of the M113 before too long. As always, I'm Tommy with Diecast Emporium. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like these Military Monday episodes, please be sure to leave a comment or like, and check out your screen right now where there'll be a couple other suggestions of Military Monday episodes. As always, thank you for watching. Take care, be safe. I'll see you in the next review.